Welcome back to the Gentleman's Gazette. In today's video, we'll discuss 14 problems that are well known to the sartorially inclined, some potential solutions to them, and just how big of a deal, or not, these problems actually are. As the old saying goes, clothes make the man. But is this always true? While dressing up undoubtedly has numerous benefits, a gentleman who is well-versed in proper sartorial practices will also be familiar with a number of unique pitfalls and problems. We've compiled a list of 14 gentleman's problems from top to bottom of an outfit, things that devotees of classic style are going to notice, but that the layman probably won't. So let's get started with our first problem today, which is collar gap. Collar gapping describes the way that the back collar of your suit jacket or sport coat can stand up and away from the collar of your shirt, usually more on one side of your body than the other. The particularly frustrating aspect of this problem is that it isn't easily diagnosed. In other words, you can suffer collar gap on jackets that are quite roomy in fit and jackets that are quite trimly fitted. Some believe that the cause is having a collar of a jacket that is simply too wide for your own neck. And while this can happen, the fact that many men experience collar gap more to one side than the other suggests that a more likely root cause is probably having one shoulder sit naturally lower than the other. As an example, Raphael has shoulders of different heights and has to grapple with collar gap from time to time on several of his jackets. Or take a look at this tuxedo jacket as worn by Jay Gatsby, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Or would that be DiGaprio in this circumstance?
Boo! You suck!
Some men may find that it happens on every ready-to-wear jacket that they try on, which can be particularly frustrating. If this is the case, then made-to-measure or full bespoke may be the only option to alleviate collar gap. Or it may also be possible to cheat collar gap by having your tailor lower the top button on your jacket so that the one side is pulled down a bit more, thus pulling the collar closer to your neck when you stand. Or you could simply find a jacket brand which gives you no collar gap and then stick with that brand. For example, one of our contributors, Dr. Christopher Lee, has found that more full-cut jackets from places like Ring Jacket or the Armory give him no collar gap, whereas more fitted jackets from places like Suit Supply do give him gap. And as you'll be aware if you've watched our recent Suit Supply review video, I also had numerous problems with collar gap when trying on Suit Supply jackets. Our number 2 problem today is shoulder divots on jackets. This one is probably going to be even less noticeable to the general public, and similarly to collar gap, it's difficult to diagnose. It occurs when you've got your arms at your sides in their natural resting position and you see dimples or divots just above your biceps in the jacket's sleeves. These indentations can appear on both sleeves or just one, and they seem to be more common or at least noticeable on flannels than on lighter weights of fabric. One source of the issue, of course, would be wearing a jacket whose shoulders are simply a bit too wide for your own build, as is the case with the 1980s power-shouldered jacket I'm wearing here today, although there can be other root causes as well. One is a sleeve pitch or rotation that doesn't harmonize with the way that your shoulders sit naturally, and another is an armhole that might be too small. Tailors can attempt to fix these issues with varying degrees of success, but if you see shoulder dimples immediately on a ready-to-wear garment before purchasing it, you may want to think twice and not rely too much on your tailor. Our number 3 problem today is flyaway collars, which is when the points of your shirt collar don't sit where they ought to, which is against the body of your shirt and underneath the collar and lapels of your jacket or other outerwear. This will occur if your shirt's collar is small and stiff or long and soft, so either extreme of length and stiffness can cause the issue. Collar stays will do much to solve this problem, but making sure that your collar shape and size complements your own build is the key here. And of course, depending on your own personal taste, a flyaway collar may not be so much problematic as a unique style statement. In either case, to learn more about the various different types of shirt collars, you can consult our video on that topic here. Our number 4 problem today is having a shirt with a second button that's in the wrong place. By second button, we're referring to the one under the collar button, the one you would normally keep buttoned even if you're not wearing a tie and have your top collar button undone. And even with this top collar button undone, if your second button is too high, you're still going to have the potential of looking too buttoned up and boring. On the other hand, if it's too low, you do have the potential of looking like Tony Manero in Saturday Night Fever, maybe even with some chest hair showing. One solution, of course, would be unbuttoning this second button as well, though you'll have to experiment with just how your shirt collar is going to sit if you choose to do this. Another option is simply finding a shirt brand that places its second button at the right height for your particular build, and a third option is going custom, in which case you can place that second button wherever you'd like. The 5th problem today is having a pocket square that's constantly sinking or rising in your pocket. Many men uninitiated to classic style don't even wear pocket squares, of course, so the idea that one could be sitting incorrectly in your pocket may seem foreign at first, but indeed, pocket squares do have the potential to sink down into a pocket and be unseen, or conversely, to billow out and look like a balloon. This depends principally on both the size and the material of your pocket square. If it's too small for the average jacket pocket, under 12 inches square, or if it's made from a particularly heavy material, it has the potential to sink down. And with satiny silk pocket squares, which are a combination of airy and slippery, these can balloon up and look like a silly souffle. Some specific folding techniques may sometimes help, but you'll have to experiment with the sizes of your squares as well as the sizes of the jacket pockets that you're going to fit them into. You could also try something like a pocket square holder, but these are gadgets that are often just going to be a waste of your money, as we discuss in this video here. Of course, the pocket squares that we offer in the Fort Belvedere shop are designed at different sizes based on the stiffness and weight of their material so that they always fit attractively in your pockets. You can check them out in the Fort Belvedere shop here. Our 6th problem today is having difficulties with sleeve length. How much of your shirt cuff should be visible below the sleeve of your jacket is a topic that is commonly and heatedly discussed on online menswear forums, with typical advice being between 1/4 and 1/2 of an inch. This is fine and dandy in theory, of course, but you're probably going to have jackets and shirts with various different sleeve lengths in your closet, so they're all going to play differently with one another. And if you get your jacket sleeves altered to show a certain length of shirt cuff, this may work perfectly well for some of your shirts, but not for others. If you'd really like to be as particular as possible about it then, this would mean keeping track of which of your jackets go best with some of your shirts to show the proper amount of cuff, or buying shirts with different sleeve lengths accordingly. Again, sleeve length of a jacket can vary some degree based upon brand, and mentioning Suit Supply once more, their jackets are known for having notoriously short sleeves, as I found out when we took a visit there. Many men will also have discrepancies in the length of their arms or in the height of their shoulders, as we alluded to before. So, whatever the case may be, the ideal solution here would probably be to go custom if you truly want to show that same amount of shirt cuff all the time. And continuing with questions of length, our number 7 problem today is getting the right length out of your necktie. The question of how long your necktie should be, with the general consensus being that it ought to just touch your waistband, is something that occupies men who are new to classic style. Frankly, though, even when you consider yourself something of a menswear professional, this can continue to be a bit of a problem. For one thing, depending on your height, you may find most ties to be either too long or too short. If you tie your tie properly so that the front blade is hanging just at the edge of your waistband, you may find that the back blade is too long if you're a shorter gentleman or too short if you're tall. And of course, if you wear trousers with a higher rise, your tie should be shorter to harmonize properly, and thus you'll find that conventional ties are probably going to be too long on average. One solution would be to alter the tie knot used, which may take up more or less of the tie's fabric. Another technique would be to tuck one or both blades of your tie into the waistband of your trousers, which is a look that some men aren't too fond of, although of course it will be invisible if you keep your jacket closed. Two additional factors can complicate things further here. The first of these is that the length of a conventional tie can vary from 57 to 60 inches or so, and those 3 inches can make a world of difference in how a tie fits you. The second factor is that bespoke ties aren't so easily found, and they can be costly. And even when and where they are available, they often come in more business-like colors and textures, and you're not going to find many woven or knit ties. Fortunately, though, we at Fort Belvedere offer many of our ties in varying lengths so that you can find the optimal one for you. And if all else fails, you might as well just leave your tie blades uneven and call it a case of sprezzatura. Our number 8 problem today is pleats that stay open. Firstly here, it's safe to say that a great many men are probably going to scorn pleated pants outright these days, but the fact of the matter is, if you try a pair that fits your build well, you'll probably be sold on them and want to incorporate them into your wardrobe. The problem encountered by wearers of pleated trousers, though, comes in when the pleats sit unattractively, staying open and looking billowy. This seems to happen most often if the pleats are small, or if they're sewn too tightly, or if the trousers you're wearing are too tight for your waistline. The result is that the rise, or the front of the trousers, isn't going to look as attractive as it otherwise might, and in extreme cases, it can even look as though it's ballooned outward. The solution here is simply to try on different pairs of trousers before you buy to make sure that the pleats interact well with your own build. And inward-facing pleats are going to stay closed and look attractive more than outward-facing pleats will. If you are suffering from ballooning pleats, though, you might as well just tell those around you that it's hammer time. Number 9 on our list today is not being able to use your pockets. We've touched on the concept of everyday carry, or EDC, elsewhere on the channel before. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how much or how little you carry, anything in your pockets is probably going to upset the clean, unbroken lines of the fabric. And setting aside trousers, it's also potentially a bad idea to use the outer pockets on a suit jacket or sport coat, especially if they're patch pockets, because over time, if you overstuff them, they may stretch or sag, which can't be fixed. The solution here, then, is to keep your everyday carry fairly light and to use the interior pockets of garments wherever possible. It is a bit ironic, given that classic menswear often features a surplus of pockets overall, but the gentleman concerned with style will often sacrifice a bit of utility for how he looks. Our 10th problem today is keeping light-colored trousers clean. Those who venture into the arena of wearing off-white or pure white trousers do have to struggle with keeping them clean. This is more of a problem for pants than for jackets or shirts because they're closer to the ground and you also do sit on them. Stylish gents wearing light-colored trousers may find themselves sweating over sitting down on park benches or on the subway, and might get nervous while eating pasta with sauce or curries. Frankly, wearing light-colored trousers does require a good deal of care and attention to keep them clean, which, depending on your outlook, can be a tremendous pain, or can simply be an opportunity to slow down and appreciate the finer details of life. And fortunately, effective stain removal methods do exist for the times when accidents happen, and you can find them, as well as a variety of other solutions, in our garment care playlist here. Our number 11 problem today also relates to trousers, and it has to do with keeping them at the right length. Whether you like to wear your trousers with a break or no break, and cuffs or no cuffs, is a matter of personal preference. Overall, the prevailing wisdom is that the hem of your trousers should either just touch the tops of your shoes or show a minimal break. During the course of the day, however, your trousers can slide down a bit over time, depending on your build, even if you're wearing a belt or side adjusters, so you may end up showing more break than you'd otherwise like to. This can be difficult to avoid even when setting the length of your pants at a tailor, because when doing this, you'll often have them pulled up to their ideal height, not to where they may sink down to later on in the day. As such, the simplest solution here would be to pull your pants up a few times throughout the day, but a better solution would be to wear suspenders. Because suspenders, or braces, hold your pants at the right length by hanging them from your shoulders, you won't be fighting gravity, and they'll stay situated properly, leaving you with a clean and unbroken leg line. In the number 12 spot today, we've got the problem of managing your socks. The typical advice on dress socks for men is that they should always be over the calf in style to prevent them from drooping down. The shorter variety, more popular today, that only come halfway up the calf can sag or bag, and they can also expose your hairy shins when sitting down, which is decidedly not a stylish look. There can be drawbacks to wearing over-the-calf socks too, however, as in summer they may have the potential to feel a bit warm, and in winter, if you're wearing flannel trousers, the trousers could cling to the socks in unsightly ways, again disrupting your leg line. Sometimes it may seem necessary or preferable to wear shorter socks then, but you're of course then opened up to the issue of having them droop down. This was a problem alleviated back in the day by men wearing sock garters, but these are seen as silly today, they can also be a royal pain, and frankly, they're mostly unnecessary, as most socks are elasticized to some degree. So, other than simply giving your socks a quick check and pulling them up occasionally, another potential solution may be wearing shirt stays, which connect your shirt to your socks, if you can warm up to the idea. For more information on shirt stays as well as collar stays, you can find our video on that subject here. Our penultimate problem today, number 13, is creases on the vamp of your shoe. Like most articles of clothing, dress shoes look their best when they're new and unworn. Once you put them to use, though, they'll inevitably develop scratches, scuffs, dings, and gouges, all of which can be disguised by polishing to some degree, except in one location, the vamp, or the upper part of the shoe directly behind the toe area. This is the part of your foot, and indeed of your shoe, that will bend and flex the most when you walk, so over time, permanent creases are likely to develop here. And polishing the area may actually make things worse, as the wax can cloud or crack over the crease as you continue to walk in the shoe. So, what is there to do? First, buy shoes of higher quality, as shoes made from thinner, cheaper materials are going to crease more and look worse over time. Next, use shoe trees after wearing your shoes and when storing them, as these are going to minimize creasing by holding the shoe in its original unflexed position. Lastly here, simply try to live with the creases. Out of all of your clothing, shoes may be the most hard-working and hard-wearing, and over time, having a bit of creasing is only natural. Indeed, it can simply add to the lived-in character of a good pair of shoes over their lifetime. And in our number 14 spot, we've got another problem that relates to shoes: asymmetrical shoelaces. This may be the most overlooked and frankly finicky of all gentlemen's problems, but once you're made aware of it, you won't be able to unsee it. When you tie your shoelaces, it's likely that you loop the left lace over the right when making a bow. The end result of this is that the finished knot is going to be twisted slightly on the diagonal. In other words, it won't lie straight across or perpendicular to the shoe. And while nobody else may notice, it's probably true that you will. Fortunately, we've got a video that explains how to alleviate this problem by tying your shoes the right way, which is to say, crossing the laces in the opposite manner. The video also covers a few alternative lacing and tying methods and discusses what types of shoelaces will be best for your shoes, so be sure to check it out here. And as a bonus, mastering this technique will likely mean that your shoes are going to stay more solidly tied for longer periods of time. To wrap up today then, we're fully aware that most, if not all, of the problems on today's list represent the most minute of issues in the grand scheme of things. Problems that most men not only aren't going to notice, but might think are silly or outright ridiculous even if they were to think about them. Ultimately, these problems are a result of seeking perfection, not only to dress your best, but indeed to be flawless in your appearance. This ideal of perfection can be tempting, especially when looking at professionally photographed menswear images, but indeed, these photographs are done under the most ideal of circumstances. They're often going to present products that are fresh out of the box with no wear on them, under controlled lighting, and indeed they may have filters or other photo manipulation applied to them afterward. Therefore, especially because most of the people around you aren't going to notice these smaller details, remember to have fun when you're assembling your outfits. Take care, of course, and savor your style, but in the end, don't sweat the small stuff. In today's video, I'm wearing a number of garments and accessories that serve to illustrate some of the various problems we discussed in the video. Most readily apparent, of course, would be my dark brown vintage suit jacket featuring a thin pinstripe in tan and light blue, which, as I said, dates to the 1980s and thus has power shoulders that are frankly a bit big for my build, resulting in some shoulder divots. Also, the sleeves of the jacket are just a bit short, and I haven't had them let out yet by a tailor, so they sometimes don't harmonize perfectly with my shirt sleeves. However, given that the French cuffs of my Charles Tirett shirt in a striped pattern of light blue and white can be set at 2 different levels, I've got the cuffs oriented slightly shorter today to compensate for the short jacket sleeves. Into those French cuffs, I've got inserted our gold-plated sterling silver eagle claw cufflinks from Fort Belvedere, featuring tiger's eye as the stone, which has some brown and yellow tones to harmonize with many of my other garments. Also from Fort Belvedere today are my 2-toned shadow-striped socks in navy blue and royal blue, my pocket square, which is in a color we're calling antique gold ochre and in a wool silk blend, featuring printed geometric medallions in beige, red, and blue with a cream contrast edge, and my boutonniere, which is a relatively new design to our shop. It's a dark blue mini delphinium. My vintage wool chalet tie, which is in a similar gold ochre color, features a repeated geometric motif in green and pink. My trousers are in a stone or khaki color to ground the outfit, and my shoes from Undandy are in dark chocolate brown suede. They're Oxfords with a cap toe, and into them I've got inserted some Fort Belvedere laces in a brighter gold color, which serve to make the shoes pop a bit more and also harmonize with this outfit. To prevent my trousers from sagging over the course of the day, I've also opted to wear suspenders, which are in a blue color, which could harmonize with the outfit, although of course they won't be seen under the jacket. Additionally, my tie is tucked into the waistband of my trousers, given that they do sit relatively high on my waist and the tie would otherwise be too long. And of course, you can find all of the Fort Belvedere accessories I'm wearing in today's video in the Fort Belvedere shop here.